Yeah, I'm not gonna film in 4K anymore because that last video I did took 3 hours to put all together on the Cadent Live. So forget that. I can do it in 1080 and have it done in 15 minutes. So not gonna do much more 4K. But anyway, so I got the crankcase split on the RMZ 250. And yeah, it's the crank. The crank is bad. That thing is making all kind of noise. And I got the bearings out. They ain't the best. So gotta get those. Get a crank. This one's rebuildable, but might just buy one ready to go. So inspecting all these other bearings, I got to get this thing apart. They seem like they run pretty smooth. Got to take this all apart and clean it. I want to get the oil pump out and check it. I should have broke this clutch basket bolt before I took it all apart, but I didn't. And I'm gonna have to get an impact driver. I'll probably go pick one up tomorrow and get this off. Then I can pull that all off and check the oil pump, clean all these parts and everything. Get that all cleaned up. Already cleaned up the other side. It's inside drying. All the bearings in there feel good. I'm gonna double check them. All the bearings in this one so far, just touching them, and having a feel at them. It all feels pretty smooth. And this one here feels smooth. That other needle bearing that goes on the other side of this felt good. These are the only ones. I think if you hear them, they're probably the ones that got most of the big chunks of metal that were getting chewed up in here. And any of the fine metal shavings probably got through the filter. And that's what you see over here on this side. But I don't think any heavy metal chunks got through those filters. Those screen filters see, the oil pump picks up the oil from these two screen filters. And then they start pumping it back through the system. And that oil comes in here. So I don't think that big heavy metal chunks that came out of here got into that oil past some screens. Probably some that, probably a little bit here and there, but I just got to double check. And I want to also double check the, well, I haven't checked it yet, but I'm going to check it, the oil pump, which, well, that thing sit right here like this. So here's the oil pump, and just two screws there. Got to pull that out, check that, and make sure it didn't suck up anything and all scratched up and everything, because if that ain't pumping, then doing all this work will be for nothing. But I looked at the specs on it. The oil pump only pumps like 2.8 psi, not very much. I guess it's just to lubricate the system. It's not really a pressure system like a automotive car, where it's got the regular bearing, what's it called, bearings, those plate bearings, and then the system is pumped up 40, 50 psi when it's running, and so that oil's pumping through their pressure, to keep it stable and all running right. This one is just basically pumping oil through the system to get everything oiled, because these bearings, they're not like those bearings anyway, so they're not floating on a pressure. This has a needle bearing inside of it here, and of course those are roller bearings. So it's coming along, and not too much more to go. I'll probably have this off probably today, and then get this whole part here cleaned, check those bearings again. I mean, the bearings in here feel really good. Hopefully I don't have to replace all those bearings. Just going to make sure that, look at it real good with a flashlight, make sure there's nothing in there and they don't look all scratched up and stuff, but they feel good. They feel excellent. You can sit here and turn this thing and they feel real smooth. So maybe those survived. But these are the main bearings. Definitely feel, you can feel just barely rubbing on them and putting pressure. You can feel that they're rough. And these other ones that are in the case here, and that other case, you're doing that same thing. Just barely touching, pushing down on them and moving them, trying to feel little notches. Like right here, I feel a little notch on this one. I don't feel that on those other ones, so maybe they survived. And let's see what else. Went ahead and ordered a piston, and I'm going to hone that bore, but I'm not going to really hone it a lot. The bore doesn't need a lot of honing. I just want to break the glaze and put the crosshatch in so it seats with the new rings. They break in real good and everything. So that'll work. So so that other part of the crank, the other casing, when I took this thing apart, all the transmission, and I also looked at the transmission, the other side right here, it all looks real good, all slides and everything looks real, the dogs look real, the shifting arms, what they call the dogs, they all look real good, no problems there. I mean, they look like they've never been slammed into gear or anything. It's really nice looking. And so what I was saying is, how the crank was stuck on that other thing and it was having problems pushing it out. It looks like I guess they did that from the factory, but if you look right here, you can see how it's all black looking and this side is real shiny, and that's a Loctite they put on there, so that's why it was real tight on that side. But what I did, I didn't want to sit there and beat on it, and I didn't buy that tool. What I did is I made this thing with a winch, and I put this cable on the table and I stuck it in between that crankshaft right here, just to put a little pull down pressure, and started cranking it just to put some pressure pulling down. And of course I put boards, under that other side of the crank, and just so it can start pushing pressure down on the crank, pulling it down as I tap on it a little bit, and just crank it on a little bit, got a little tight, and started tapping on it, came right out, no problem. I use this hammer, little hammer here, just tap it on a little bit, and it started moving. And so that's how I got that out, instead of buying that tool. And so, what else? So just been working on it right now, and that's what I got done. So everything looks real good with the trans and all the other parts. Hopefully the oil pump's not messed up, and then I can clean this up, get this all back together. I did notice this thing feeling a little loose. I'm going to check the bearings on this one. But I did put the case back together, seating on this side of the shaft, and it gets a lot tighter. So maybe I'm just thinking it's loose. I don't know. Because I just reassembled it real quick just to get that support back on this side of the shaft. And then move the clutch basket, and it feels solid. So I don't think there's anything wrong. I think it's just because it's not mounted right now. So these bearings, so I was looking online trying to find these bearings, and I looked at all the websites of bearing manufacturers. Teamkin, SK something, and NT, and all these other ones. Niche, and just went through all the brands on different websites. None of them show this. See that little, there's a cutout ridge on this, and that's where those little keepers go. And you have to have that ridge. If you put a bearing in there without the ridge, see this side doesn't have the ridge. This side has that little ridge. It's an inset. And that's where those little things go that mount here to hold the bearing from spinning. So if I get another bearing and put it in this way, those little things are not going to be able to go on. They're going to stick out. They're not going to go on level, and then they're going to stick out. So the only bearing that I can find that is actually the same bearing is from like the Pro X parts, and the cheaper Taiwan Hot Rod and Wiseco, But I guess I'm going to get the Pro X one. They are a little expensive. but that's the only one I can find. Looking at all those bearing websites, that's the only ones that I can find with that ridge. And I guess this, it's like this bearing was made for this bike or something. I don't know how they're gonna. And you put this number, you even put this number in their website. This is the Yoko bearing. You take that number right there and put it in the website. They don't even know what the bearing is. And when I put the dimensions, it's a 30 by 62 by 16. I put that in their website, and I checked all the websites, bearing manufacturers. They'll show you all these bearings, but they show you ones with what's that called? That clip ring, the snap ring, and this edge and that edge and this and every, but no recess like that. They don't show that recess. So I don't know what's going on with that. And the only ones I can find is that one from that part number from the Pro X or the Suzuki website, the Suzuki parts, which where they want $70 a piece, and the Pro X you can get 2 of them for $80. So I guess I'm gonna go with those. It's the only thing. I don't want to put this thing together with those other kind of bearings that doesn't have it. So it's going to be like this. You see how this is a little bit, I don't know if this camera is going to show it, but this side is a little bit wider. Look at that edge right here. Because this side, you see the edge here? This side has a cutout right here. And that's for that little thing that mounts right here. And it locks down. It's like this. Like if this was the edge of that, it bolts down and locks and crimps and holds it tight so it don't spin. And if I use those other bearings, it's going to be like that, and that thing's going to be lower, and this is going to be higher, and it's just not going to work. So that's what I'm doing. I guess I'm going to have to get those. Those are the only ones, the only option I can see. That and the Pro X ones, they're the same bearing. They're the exact same bearing. So I'm going to get those. And then we're going to get this thing all back together. And then once I get it the crank and everything on, then I can start working on the check the valves and see if the seals are leaking and stuff like that. And then there's some other things I have to do to the bike. But anyway, I just want to make a real quick video showing you the progress. Got it all apart, man. This crank, this thing is toast. That thing is really toasted out. I'll put that little thing on there to tap it. That came from that little what's it called? That oh, the magneto puller that I bought. That's the only tool I really bought for it so far. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up here. I'm out for this one. I just wanted to make a quick video talking about some more of this work I'm doing on this RMZ, and soon enough we're gonna have this thing back together, and we're gonna go out riding it. That's gonna be the fun part. All right, I'm out for this one.